Welcome to all the advanced training candidates to our Cape Conference online training forum. I hope that you'll be blessed as you complete and continue with your requirements for PLA or APLA. Remember to stay focused on the comments down below and to ensure that you receive all the information that you need to complete this requirement and add it to either your Google Drive or to your folder so that testing can be done as soon as you're done with the curriculum. May God bless you, and may you keep focused on what He wants you to do in training yourself to reach the junior youth ministry of your church and also maybe a little bit further into your community. God bless and keep well, and hope to see you soon.
To our kind and loving, I'm praying now.
Good.
To our kind and loving Father, what above, we want to thank you, God, for today. We thank you for your protection. We thank you that even if it's cold, as cold as it is, you have kept us safe. And we want to thank you for the time that we are going to have to study. We pray that you may bless our pastors and all the candidates. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, welcome to tonight's section. We are looking at the seminar section for the APLA. And before I continue, did anybody find a book that they thought is quite applicable to the section of your spiritual growth? On leadership, did anyone find another book that might have stood out to them? Okay. If you haven't, that's all right.
I'm still looking for one.
So I started reading a book a few weeks ago, and it's actually it's not specifically a leadership book, but I guess one could get quite a lot of leadership principles out. It's done by Louis Torres. And the name of the book is Demons or Angels. Have you ever heard of this? Louis Torres. It looks like this. Demons or Angels. And
Okay.
so this guy was part of he was in a leadership position in a gang in America. And he expresses how the spiritual realm actually functioned within their gang, and it's interesting because he's an evangelist. Actually, he's a very, very prominent evangelist for just about 43 years in America, an Adventist. So he's written this thing on demons and angels, and there's actually very, very little written on demons and angels or what happens in the spiritual realm, specifically within our lives as Adventists. So if you can get that book, by all means, please read it, because it will actually help broaden your perspective of the spiritual realm. And if you think about it, as leaders, we're here to counter the fight of the devil, to present the gospel in such a way that will lead young people closer to the Lord. And if we understand how the Lord works, then we will definitely be able to portray that to the young people. Did anybody complete their articles? Rachel?
halfway, Pastor, halfway.
Halfway.
Yeah, I'm also halfway.
Good, Brother John. Keep going. If you guys need some advice, just ask, okay? But well done. So, all right, now in number 3, section 3 has 2 parts to it. The first part is complete a minimum of 3 hours of leadership growth in seminars dealing with these topics. The first one is training instructors to train. Second one, dealing with attitude. Thirdly, using your influence. And that's the first section. Then the second section is complete 10 hours of APL level seminars covering the following topics: management skills, methods of facilitation, understanding temperaments, optional unit team building, and then training skills, presentation skills, and then under presentation skills, organizing your presentation and visual aids, because that leads us on to the next section where you actually have to start to present different courses. Now the seminars, you'll notice that it's focused primarily on how to train people, and then also how to implement that training concept practically within the lives of those you're trying to train. And I would like to draw this out. You'll notice that in the first section, it looks at attitude and influence. Now, on that, let's discuss the concept of training others to train. Why do we need people that will train trainers?
If you look at our current situation, Pastor, especially in the pathfinding program or in the junior ministry, as well as senior ministry, the curriculum consists of different subjects and also different outcomes. And we need people to present it. And as my view as Advanced Pathfinder Leadership Award candidate, at the end of the day, is that we must invest in the others to be of service and of pain.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you want them to understand what they are doing so that they can meet the outcome of that specific presentation or skill or whatever they present. So that's my view on why do we need.
So I think so from So from my perspective, I think trainers for one needs to be SMEs. Okay, so they need to be subject matter experts in their field. When it comes to the level above that, which is training the trainers, as a leadership trainer, you don't just need to be a subject matter expert, but you need to be able to think on your feet, and you need to be able to teach these subject matter experts on how to deal with various situations, including how to deal with various, whether it is children or young adults or ambassadors, pathfinders, how to deal with these different age groups. Because not everybody is equipped to deal with children. You'll find somebody, for example, that is a brilliant public speaker, and you ask them to do a presentation and they'll knock the socks off the presentation. But when it comes to dealing with the people that receives the presentation, that is where some of them lack. And I think as a leadership trainer or a train the trainer, it is about pulling all those aspects together and teaching the leadership that is physically level 1 involved with the children, to give them, to better equip them on how to do it.
Spot on. So I would like to add on to what you guys are saying is that we've also got to define, for instance, can we say that anyone can be a leader?
No.
Okay.
I don't. It's not everyone who is a leader.
Nice.
I think leadership is a gift, because we might be doing the same training, but sometimes the way we present it and the way we grasp it and the way we take the things, I've seen that at many times people just take these lessons as like, you just have to do it. Maybe you don't even pray about it. So sometimes when it comes to this train the trainer, it means we also have to be equipped on how to train others because we have also been trained.
Okay, thank you, Sister Barbara. I think it's important for us to realize that when we're training people, we have to know their level and their level of leadership. So what do they do? What type of leadership skills do they have? And if we understand that, we might be able to tap into it to a greater point to actually equip them so that they can train. Like, it's actually proven that majority of people in this world are followers, that they're not leaders. And it's a handful of people that are actually leaders and that can train other leaders to lead those who are followers. And it's important for us to realize that. Now, you'll notice that on page 10, the objective of this section is to say the task of training people is not easy. And I want you to remember that, because human beings are complex. However, training is a very important process. No one can perform well on a task, no matter how hard they try and regardless of how much they want to, until they know what they are supposed to do and how they are supposed to do it. A well-developed training program addresses both of these issues. This section will help you prepare for, plan, present, and follow up on training programs. So in other words, we need to equip you to be able to go out and train others, because you need to train others so that they can continue to train others. And this is the concept of what we're trying to instill within our young people, is that when I train you, I'm not just training you to get to a level of graduation and say, yes, I've achieved this level, I've arrived. It's actually to say, you know what, your job is only starting right now. And you have to now continue to move on and train other people. If we look at the next point, it says attitude. Now, when you hear attitude, dealing with attitude, what do you hear? What do you hear? Those of you that we work with adventurers and pathfinders, have any of you had an experience with dealing with attitude?
So, in dealing with both of them, yes. And I think dealing with attitude, the first, before we even get to dealing with attitude of other kids, as parents, we've got to deal with the attitudes of our own kids. And when our kids get out there, it just becomes a lot worse. But within the adventurer club here in Coast River, we have a few children that we will generally classify as being stubborn or headstrong, right?
Yeah.
But in looking at that, you look at the household where they come from. We expect our children to be submissive in terms of when we speak or give an instruction, we expect them to carry it out or to listen. But the kids of today, again, are not the kids of when I grew up. I got a smack very quickly if I didn't follow an instruction, which is something we can't do today. Also, parents of today, I find, they do not punish. They don't give hiding. They are scared to do these little things. So, because the children, for lack of a better phrase, lack discipline at home, they bring it into the club and they act out. But what I found works is, with me personally, yes, I am all my kids' friends. I befriend all my kids, but they know when Uncle Russell speaks, they need to listen.
Yes.
And it's about the relationship, I think, that I've built up, because it didn't happen on day one. It happened, it starts happening with the relationship.
Mm.
So I think with children and discipline and acting out, it's the relationship that you develop with a child.
Cool. Thanks, Brother Russ. On that point, have you had any attitude that you felt from parents?
So go for it, sister.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say, yeah, we sometimes you find that the parents have got an attitude, especially when you ask them or tell them to help their kids with homework. They feel that church homework is not necessary, you know, that kind of attitude. You can sometimes I don't see it, but action sometimes speaks louder than words.
Mm. Anyone
So
else?
so a follow on to what I said is that I generally find it is the parents with the attitude problems that are scared to instill the discipline in the kids, whose kids are problematic.
Mm.
So it's a follow on that, and that is what I find within my club.
Mm. So no, we're not getting into the nitty-gritties of how to deal with attitude at the moment, but as leaders, we have to take this into consideration when we come to those who we're training. Because imagine you had someone that you're supposed to train to become a leader, to train others, and they're giving you attitude. And this becomes even a greater challenge, because now we have leaders who think they know everything already, and actually they don't know everything already, and they're throwing attitude at you, and they're actually trying to derail you from that which you're trying to teach them. And it's this aspect that at this level we have to understand even how to deal with that problem when it comes to training leaders, because they might have attitude towards this. And you'll notice that every time I share with leaders that I believe that the higher leadership position that we hold, the greater the servant that you should become. So in other words, attitude should become less and less and less with the higher you actually go within leadership. And I believe that's the concept that we have to instill. So when we're going to go through the seminar, let's remind ourselves about that, because when we look at attitude, it actually has to decrease. And I almost want to say that when we look at John 3 verse 30, and it says, he must increase and I must decrease, it means that my attitude must decrease and God's attitude must increase in my life. So let's keep that in mind. Okay. And the next section is using your influence. Now, if you look at your life, would you say you as a leader have influence in other people's lives?
I think, as a leader, yes, Pastor. Because what you influence, it's going to contribute to the outcome of what you are doing and where you're leading them to. So, yeah, you have to set the example, and the influence that you reflect and work out on them, either positive or negative. So, yeah, that's what I could say for now, pertaining to influence.
That's a good point,
Because
brother.
at the end of the day, you have to influence them by your example, because that will play a role also as a role model, try to be a role model under your influence for the youngsters.
So I think as a leader, irrespective of what position of leadership you are in, You are constantly being watched, and there are constantly eyes on you. And everything you say and do is looked at. And very often we think we think the children don't see what we do and say or act in the company of adults, but they do. And that has an impact on how they act in everybody else's company as well.
Good example there, Brother Ross. Thank you. Sister Barbara, did you want to say something? Brother John?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I want to take what Brother Richard said, living by example. I had a challenge at some point when I was teaching my friend class about the junk food and the healthy foods. And I used to drink Coke a lot. So I was not thinking about how bad Coke is, how bad these fizzy drinks are. And this other kid says, but Auntie, but you always take Coke. And from that day, I changed because I knew that I'm being a bad influence. I'm teaching the kids otherwise, and I'm doing the wrong thing at the same time.
Good. It's good that you took that change, eh? Because the kids are like, yeah, but you're doing that. You're supposed to live by example, right?
Yeah, he really said that. He said we went to camp and we had bottles of Coke, and now you're telling us not to drink Coke.
That's good. So my mother always used to tell me that I am like the Pied Piper. You guys know the story about the Pied Piper, right? The Pied Piper walked into a town and he blew on his flute and he took all the kids out of town. That's actually the story of the Pied Piper. But those children actually died, and the theory is that those kids got sick because there was a disease in the town. And why she called me the Pied Piper was all my cousins would follow me wherever I would go. They would follow me wherever I would go, whatever I would do, they would want to do. And whether I did something right or wrong, they would copy me until the T. And I want us to remember that everything we do, we're leaving a legacy. And this is actually what this concept's bringing out. That what legacy are we leaving for other people to instill within their lives? And Brother Richard mentioned that it's either good or it's bad. And we have to realize there's nothing in the middle. You can't leave something that's gray with someone else. They're always going to interpret it as either right or wrong. You might see it as being in the middle or a gray aspect, but you must realize that people are always interpreting things either right or wrong. And they're trying to understand, can I do this? Can't I do this? And therefore, when you as a leader and you're trying to train other leaders, you've got to stick with your guns until you've actually been proven wrong. And I think that's something that we have to hold to when it comes to our leadership styles. So therefore, in this point, and I want to encourage you that you should evaluate the leadership style that you have so that you can actually implement that leadership style so other people can grow by that which they learn from you. And you'll notice that the model, it's being put together so that you can develop and generate the leadership style that you're supposed to implement. Now, it might be a little bit frustrating that we're going through overviews and things like that in the first section or the first few weeks of the APLA, but I want us to take this in because we're trying to set a foundation, because from there, we have to set solid walls up. And understanding who we are in this leadership course, it's going to help us in the future to implement the stuff more adhesively and more coherently in training other leaders to become leaders and pass on this principle. So that's the first section of this section on seminars. Now, before I go into the next one, how would you say a seminar should actually be presented? Now, it's an open-ended question, so I actually want to hear what you guys have to say. How do you think a seminar should be presented?
Personally, I think when you are presenting a seminar, you need to involve your audience, because the more they participate and the more they take part in your seminar, the better they take in. Other than you lecturing, they may know, you may think they have they got something, but when I was reading one other book, it says to me, when people participate, 90% of them grasp the what has been presented, and after about 2 weeks, about 82% still have the information that has been given, or that they have learned. But when they are not participative, by the time you finish the presentation, they will have forgotten what you have been talking about.
I want to add to what Brother John said. Audience participation is very important, and then it must be creative as well as interesting. So your seminar must be so interesting. You know, you need to have pictures and be creative, not just, you know, talking and talking, because a lot of people, they don't really take everything in that you say. So people would see, would take in more if they see pictures. I would say very creative.
Thank you, sister.
And also to add, Pastor, your planning is important based on what you present in the seminar. Because you have to have objectives and outcomes in the seminar. And what I pick up, and as the previous Brother John and Rachel have said, even of experience, is that nowadays when it comes to seminars, it all depends which level you present to. Because you have the different levels of the pathfinders, for example, youth ambassadors, adults. And you have to make room for participation and for real questions and sharing from experiences from the audience, from the participants. But the planning phase is important so that you, once you finish with the seminar, that you, when you look and take the seminar, at least that you met the outcomes. What was the central message that people have to take from the seminar? Do I met that criteria? Because I can present and present and I can miss the center message. I have to leave them from the seminar. Also, what's important in your seminar is that seems that you have participation, you need to guide them and lead them into a certain direction. Because sometimes they can take you with the discussion point straight off the point that you want to meet the outcome on. So you must also in seminars, you must have the time for participation, and you must also control that time so that you can stick to the central message that you want to achieve for the seminar. But as been said, interaction is how they learn a lot from, and group discussions, and this is what I pick up from what we present. The more we have the staff or the students involved with their real experience from their side, this is where they learn a lot, because they can now reflect the training, the seminar content to their own personal or scenarios or real life experience that they have come across and learned.
Welcome, Brother Rich. Thank you. Brother Russ, you have something?
So if you look at a seminar, okay, and seminars are around teaching, okay. Seminars are about bringing across a point, okay, and your point needs to be clear, and then it goes on into discussion or opinion discussion around the point. However, your seminar can also, and I'm going to agree with what was said in terms of training, because it is one thing, and I think our church, within our church aspect, we always have a lot of seminars, but we don't have enough training. So within our church aspect setting, especially within whether it be Master Guide or PLA or APLA, we need to have more of a training seminar than just a seminar.
Yes.
Because the training seminar leads to that physical input on how to, let's do this. You know, the breaking into small groups and then feeding back. That is your training seminar.
Mm.
And I think that is something that we are lacking. And I see it starting to come within the Master Guide training and the race training that took place. But that is something that we need to look at, because that is something that needs to come through a lot more.
Spot on. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when we look at the way we develop and the way we present ourselves, imagine I would sit here and I'll be like, all right, guys, we'll be looking at the section on seminars in the APLA curriculum, and we will be and I'm sure that you'll understand exactly what I'm saying right now. It's boring, right? You'll be like, hey, this guy's not a presenter, and now guess what we're going to do? This guy's not even a leader, because he has no idea how to present himself properly. He has no idea how to grip the attention of his audience and to actually help them come to a point to stay awake, point number one, and also to conceptualize the information. Now,
Pastor,
yes, Sister Barbara.
sorry, on that, I just wanted to add on what the previous speakers just said. I think we don't do practicals after the trainings or seminars. I've done PLA. I think I've only done just one seminar that I attended and that I also facilitated. And at the end of the day, you don't know whether you did it right or you did it wrong. I think after learning, we also need to have the practical aspect of it, so that I become confident, because by practice, you become confident. Sometimes you have the knowledge, but you don't know how to present it when we are with people now.
Spot on. So this is an aspect that we have to implement and instill even within APLA. So what we're going to do, we're definitely going to have this reflection and have this, you know what, I would have said you shouldn't have presented something like that. And we're going to be presenting, and you guys are going to present stuff on Zoom, just by the way. So you got to prepare yourself to present on Zoom, okay? And when it comes down to presenting your presentations, you're going to present to not just us, but we're going to have an audience. Because here's it, you've got to understand who you're presenting to.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And
Yes.
so I'm encouraging you now to prepare your mind, your mental, just to understand, you know what, I'm going to be on Zoom, I'm going to be awkward, there's going to be awkward silences every now and again. How are you going to deal with that? And I guess it's going to come with time. So I want us to realize that when we speak to our people, let's be creative. And for instance, you're sitting in front of a screen. How can you be creative even just being on Zoom? And one of the major ways that you can be creative is your background, point number one. Point number two is how you're going to present your slides, how you're going to present what you're actually giving to the people. If it's going to be a black and white slide, I can guarantee to you now that you're going to miss the point and they're going to miss the point. For instance, I've noticed some honors and awards being presented, and guess what? It's black and white slides, and you're speaking to pathfinders and adventurers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not going to be lively on that screen, the adventurers and pathfinders are going to start to drop out like flies. So think creatively, and I always like bringing creative stuff into presentations that I have. And when I do training in an levende lywe, so you can say, what's that in English? In the living bodies. That doesn't sound right. But that I'm present amongst people. I love to have practical things that are there that will get you involved, because as soon as you start doing something, guess what's going to happen to that principle? It hits home 10 times better than just when you just heard it. You have to, I believe you've got to use all your senses. If you use all your senses, you're going to remember that principle for so much longer. And I want to encourage you that as you prepare, because you're going to have to prepare for seminars later, but use these principles and tools. Now, the next section says complete 10 hours of APLA level seminars covering the following topics. 10 hours. Okay, it says management skills, training skills, and presentation skills. So management skills, training skills, and presentation skills. I like the concept that it says management, because you have to understand how to manage your class. I mentioned to Sister Rachel and Brother Richard before everyone came in, I just mentioned that we had an award today of having 50 adventurers in the award. Now, I know Brother Russell knows how that feels, because he presented 2 weeks ago. And when you have adventurers, they don't like being on mute. They don't like being on mute. So you can mute them. They're going to unmute themselves. And guess what? Throughout the session, they're going to be like, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? And they want to hear their own noise, and they want to get a reaction. Now, as a leader, how do you manage that in a class, and specifically on Zoom? When it comes to pathfinders, they're a lot more focused. And when it comes to older leaders, they also tend to be a little bit more focused, but some of them don't. And we have to understand how to manage those things. So management skills, methods of facilitation under management skills, effective meeting procedures, understanding temperaments. So do we understand the different types of temperaments we actually get within people? You might get someone that's very, very outspoken. And this is what it's all about. And someone might be very shy, and you might have all these different people in your class. And guess what? You've got to deal with them, and you've got to keep their attention. And this is where the challenge comes in, that when you're dealing with different temperaments in one class, you've got to understand how to balance out your presentation to reach everyone in that class. And I know that we're human and we might miss it, but here's the thing. The more you do it, the easier it's going to come. And the easier it will become to present on such a level. Before I move on to that one, anybody want to share something on management skills? Now, I know you guys, or I think all of you are in some sort of management position where you are helping people and managing situations. So share with us, what do you do in that situation of managing different things in a situation that you find yourself? Brother John?
Pastor, on management, you must know your people. And if you don't know the people that you say, if you are a manager, if you don't know the people that you are working with, and if you don't study them well, you may not succeed. So you need to know, I work with these people who works well with delegation, and who works well with specific tasks. And you need to know who is innovative amongst the people that you are leading, or you are that are under you, and who some may be very good, but they are not dependable. You cannot depend on them. So you have to learn your people, and you have to do it in such a way that, one, you don't embarrass them. Two, at times don't need to show them that they are not dependable, so that they accept the responsibilities that you give them. But you still, as a manager, have the accountability. It doesn't matter how many people you work with, you have to be accountable.
Thank you, Brother John. Anybody else want to share? I know Brother Rich is in a position of managing many people, so he can actually present this concept on management to a large degree. Brother Rich?
Pastor, what's also important, as the Brother said, what's important also is that know your members. Because you have a group of people, but they are different individuals. Know their strong points, know their weak points. And always respect them, and of course, from both sides. But when you know them, you will know how to manage them. Because sometimes you have to manage them in different styles of management itself. But the basic principle from my experience in the management, once you know them, you will know how to deal with them. Also be honest with them.
Yeah.
Because this is where the trust will come in. From that honesty that you show, where you respect them. This is the basic ones that you, from a management point, especially also when you have the training component towards the management side. This is where the respect will come to. Because you, based on knowing them, you will know how to address them.
Yes.
Based on their strong points. Like for me, like I'm in the rescue squad, is that the team that I work with, I know them, I have to know them by hand. Because when we're busy with an operation, I have to know not all of them, not all of us have the same strong points, and not all of us have the same weak points. And at the end of the day, when you leave a scene or after your management principles that you apply, they must still respect and love you for what you have done on that one. There will be challenges, and this is how, once you know them, you will know how to deal with the challenges based on how you know them.
Exactly.
And that's what I can, from short and sweet, contribute from a management side. The same as the facilitator, when we're going to manage, we're going to train, we have to know our audience.
That's right. I love this. I love what comes out, and going through all these different types of trainings, we will notice that Master Guide, it's based on building relationships. You'll notice APLA or PLA is built on relationships. APLA is built on building relationships. SYL is built on building relationships. And the more we understand this point, we're working with people. If we don't have a relationship, and if we don't understand people, and if we don't trust and we don't show that we trust and respect them, we're actually not going to achieve this concept of drawing people closer to, or even pointing them in the direction of the Lord. And this is the outcome that we're actually looking for, is that we can point people in the direction because they trust us and they respect us and they understand who we are because we spent time with them and gotten to know them. And sometimes I find it very difficult, especially being in the position that I am, because we have so many different leaders that we're working with, that personal relationship can't be developed to such a degree that it can actually, it's deeper than what it is just by meeting once or here and there. And I appreciate the point of having local church, because that's where that connection comes together. The more time we spend together, the closer we come together, right? And the easier it is that we can actually work with each other and manage situations. So yeah, it's important. Management skills. Number two, training skills. Now, what's the difference between management and training?
Pastor, when it comes to training, you make your hands dirty. And normally, if you make your hands dirty, that's when training becomes meaningful, because it's not easy for you to train somebody to do something you cannot do.
That's right. I like that, Brother John. Thank you.
Of management, you manage the people into a certain direction.
Okay.
Of training, they must leave with something, either skill or knowledge that they can apply to what they have attained. That's what I would say. And as the brother have said, is that some of our training, we have to set the example by being the hands-on, by leading out in the training and not only instructing. Especially with the pathfinders, the level of ministry that we present our training.
So from a management and training perspective, I think the first rule for me around management specifically is knowing your management style, knowing yourself. Because once you do that, then it's easier to learn and to get to know others. Okay? When it comes to training, like Brother John said, it's about getting your hands dirty. It's about taking your knowledge and imparting it on other people. Okay? And I think where we fell short as presenters, I'm going to call it presenters, is that we know the topic, we know the theory, we don't know the practical. And I think in order for you to be able to present a topic, you need to know not just the theory, but you need to know the practical as well. Because by doing that, you will put yourself into that situation when presenting to people. And people feed off that, because then people realize this buddy knows exactly what he's talking about. He's experienced it, he's lived it. He can tell us from a first-hand experience what to do and what not to do. And I think that's important for training, is that whether it is training, presenting, or facilitation, we need to have, and I'm speaking about an adventurer, from an adventurer and pathfinder perspective, we need to have that know-how, but not just the theory, we need to have that practical. It's pointless for pastor, for example, to give you all the theory on how to go on a camp and how to do a survival camp if he's never been on a survival camp.
That's right.
Then it's pointless in doing the training, as an example. And that is what I'm saying. You need to connect the two.
Anyone else want to share something? Okay, so I like what you guys are saying. So management is managing the group, trying to understand their nitty-gritties, how they fit together, how to deal with problems, how to deal with challenges. But training is taking it to a step forward and closer to your outcome. It's actually instilling in them the points that you understand from management, and also the implementation of what you want to teach them. And in such a degree, I believe that we've got to take principles and make them as basic as possible. For instance, if I want to teach a 5-year-old about the Trinity, how am I going to do that? It's a principle, it's an important principle to us. But if I'm going to teach it, how am I going to teach it? And this is part of the training. Management, I've got to understand how they're going to be thinking. And I like the concept of what you guys are saying. I've got to get my hands dirty. So if I want to understand how a 5-year-old is going to react towards this, I've got to actually go and speak to a 5-year-old and say, hey, what do you think about this point? And try and understand them before I actually go and present it, so that I present it on their level and I get down to the nitty-gritties on their level. We can go a bit further, the concept of empathy. Today, people are talking about empathy and sympathy and things like this. How do these fit together? If I don't ask people, if I don't go and study properly, how am I actually going to be able to implement it and present it in a very effective manner? Social justice. I've been watching quite a number of things about social justice taking place. And I've seen a couple presentations where people are just speaking off the top of their heads. This is what they think. And sometimes I actually see that it's coming out the wrong way. And this isn't something that you actually want to go viral. You want to have legitimate, solid information presented. And when you present it, your training and your management needs to fit together. And then lastly, your presentation skills. So you'll notice that they start with management, and this is actually the format that you should actually take when setting up your presentations. Part of your management is your preparation. You've got to understand who you're going to work with. You've got to study who you work with before you actually implement the training section. Because if you're just going to start with the training of what you want to give them and instill this principle in them, and this is what they have to walk away with, but you haven't done the nitty-gritties, the management as well, to understand how these things fit together, you're not going to achieve your goal. So we start with management. We understand this is who we're working with, what we want to give them, and then we come to the training, and as you said, we get our hands dirty. We've got to experience what's taking place. We've got to experience what it's all about. And then lastly is how we're going to present it. And the presentation is truly a very creative way. So this is where your creativity comes in play. This is where the reaction that you've received from those people you might have spoken to about the principle, you can actually implement. I remember years ago, I did a presentation on the concept of why do good things happen to bad people, or bad things happen to good people. They call it the theodicy. And I in my preparation, I went and interviewed, and I made videos of almost 50 different people. I asked them that question, and they would then share. Christians, non-Christians, etc., 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 atheists, and they went and explained their perspective. And I put this all together, and then we had a presentation, but on top of it, a discussion that were divided up into groups on that evening. And the impact that it made on people's lives was that they started to think about looking at the concept of this theodicy from outside and not just their own perspective, because they've realized that there's so many different views about this one question. And it opened up so many different conversations to understand how we should deal with this situation or with the problem that we face. And that question's arising once again. What's happening in the world today? How are we going to deal with it? And when we present, we can present and use different formats and different methods of showing people our content of what we have. And this will come, you guys will see that this will come across in our presentation on these different seminars that will be presented over the next few months. And I want to encourage you that as you're contemplating your role as a leader, the legacy that you want to leave, evaluate how you're going to present that legacy, because every single day you're actually preaching you're actually sharing a seminar or a sermon with people around you, and the way that that is interpreted is going to be the way that you're going to change people's lives. So that's the seminar section as an overview. Now we'll notice how this fits into the previous section, personal growth. That once we actually understand how important it is to have a relationship with God, we can now take this relationship and we can implement it and show other people how they can also be more in-depthly connected to God by the things that we present to them. And I hope you will notice that the next section is preparation and presentation. And I actually believe that this is the outcome that we're actually looking for. So if we're not working on section 2 and 3 effectively and setting up that foundation, number 4, the section of preparation and presentation it's going to be disconnected or disjointed. So as a leader, your role is to ensure that you're connected to God. And secondly, your role is to ensure that you're connected to people around you so that you can portray the gospel to them in a very dynamic and transformational method and way of living. Are there any comments, any questions, things like that?
Question.
Yes, Brother Ross.
We are going through, for the first few weeks, I see we are now going through the requirements, okay?
Yes.
With 2 weeks ago's requirement in terms of ideas around the Bible plan and the leadership book and the article, those are things that we are now putting into practice in order to fulfill and complete a requirement, okay?
Yes.
When it comes to the seminar section, are we going to work through it first? And are there going to be seminars, actual webinars, I should call it, on these criteria? Or are we going to be required to submit call it a research paper or a something on this,
Okay.
using our own lives kind of thing?
Okay, so this section, we're going to go through seminars. All right. So seminars will be presented on this section for you guys as APLA. The next section, you'll know that that is where preparation and presentation comes into play. So we're going to go through the overview of this section next time. And why I'm doing that is because we're going into depth in the overview, and straight once we've finished with this 4th section of the overview, we will then head into the seminars and sort out all the seminars that we have to do regarding that, which means we might have to have 1 or 2 sessions that are maybe following on each other or much closer to each other. Okay. Yeah, so if you haven't had a chance, start reading through the manual. Start going through all the sections and acquainting yourself with the manual, because then we're going to start focusing on the parts more specifically. Great. There's no other questions. If you're all happy and chatty.
Happy.
No, all good. All
Good.
good. I think we still busy stressing about our articles. Yeah, having to write a second article. His where do I find the words is the question. So that is a thing. So I think we're all busy with our articles, and then the requirement around the reading, the Bible plan, the reading plan, and what That's going to keep us busy for a long time. So we're going to do everything as it comes, and if we need to log on, we will do that. Yeah, and I look forward to this challenge.
So if I can maybe share with the article for you guys, and this is something that you can think about. You've had challenges in the past in adventurers or pathfinders, and something might have been a great challenge for you and you didn't really understand how to overcome the challenge at that moment. Take that challenge and put that into your article. And this is part of your training to train others. And I want you to think about, so this counts for all of us. I want us to think about how to take that problem that we faced and implement it into a document, so that we can actually pass on that document to other people around us and they can learn from it. And I'm glad that you're struggling with it, Brother Russ. It means that it's going to be a powerful article coming off of your desk. The more you struggle with it, the bigger and the greater the impact it's going to make. That's why masters and doctorates aren't just 50 or 30 pages, eh? They're more like
Pages.
180 to 400 pages.
No, I think I got it. I got something now.
Great. Brilliant. Well, let's close our eyes, and I'm going to ask Sister Rachel to pray for us. The two ladies can pray for us.
Close our eyes. Father, thank you for your love and your kindness, and thank you that you have spared our lives throughout this weekend. And as we enter a new week, would you please guide us and help us with whatever is going to come across our paths, that we know that with you by our side, we would deal with everything that comes on our paths. Thank you for the fact that we can talk to you, and thank you that you have done so many things for us in the past and you've carried us through. And I ask that you please help us as we are doing this course. Would you please open our hearts and open our minds so that we can understand, and that we can help the pathfinders, the youth, also the leaders, to grow closer to you. Thank you for there for us, and thank you that you are God that listens. Thank you also for our families and our friends. I ask that you please be with each and every family member, families that are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Would you please also be a God and that shows mercy. Forgive us if we have done wrong against you, and would you please guide us also through this night. And thank you for Pastor's commitment to the youth ministries, and we also please guide him and help him, as well as his family. I ask in Jesus' name.
Amen.